let me introduce you. So Tatum Cave is my friend and my colleague. We work together in the Bitcoin mining industry. Tatum, aka Terahash Tatum. You're from Mississippi, living in New Orleans, and you've got a long-haired Dachshund. I was curious if she'd make an appearance and talk about Bitcoin with us.
I gotta put her on the puppy cam real quick. Come here. This is baby Nala. She's a long hair mini dachshund. She's about 2.5 months, and she has me wrapped around her paw. So
Cutie pie. So, brother man, we came here to talk about Bitcoin as we do. I shared with you that I'm starting this channel and looking forward to sharing Bitcoin with the people just because when I, got orange pilled and started to understand what is Bitcoin, what is money, what is value relative to the 21st century. When I got orange pilled like a year and a half ago, I wish somebody had shared that information with me sooner. So that's kind of the purpose and intent of the channel. I thought you'd be great to bring on because you advocate for Bitcoin. And we're getting started here. We just mined the block 750,445 is when we're getting this party started. You studied traditional finance, right? When did you get into Bitcoin? What was that orange pill moment for you? And I'm assuming it was somewhere in between when you were studying traditional finance and then when you went all in on Bitcoin. What happened?
I consider TradFi to be my orange pill. I have a degree in finance from University of Southern Mississippi. I had heard of Bitcoin like I'd say probably like 2015, 2016, but didn't really understand anything about it, didn't know what it was. And then like I think whenever I first heard about it, I one of my first searches was coin stock price. So that just shows you where I was in my knowledge. But I graduated in 2020 at the height of the pandemic, learning about the traditional finance world. That's when I started to really understand what Bitcoin was. I look at it more, not necessarily even compared to like TradFi markets, more so just like what does it do that traditional finance doesn't do? It's crazy to think that all these people across the country, across the world are working jobs, getting paid, and in all actuality, they do not own their money unless they get paid in cash.
Even then, it's questionable whether they own their money.
But then also if they own if I were to work a job 40 hours a week and I get paid cash because I want to make sure that I hold my own money, the government still technically has a hold on that dollar because the gold standard was gone. I think it was 51 years ago recently, actually. And so like, oh, they just print into oblivion. Well, the value of this dollar that I'm holding, that I'm stuffing under my mattress is still, you know, going down. I think it might be Corey Clipston that talks about the shitcoin horseshoe where, you start number go up. That's how I got in. I was like, oh, number go up. And then I did trading. I did what's the next big project. And
You're viewing it in fiat terms, right? Like originally when you search like Bitcoin stock and you didn't know that Bitcoin is an asset in and of itself and have direct exposure to it, you don't need to go through a brokerage or anything like that to get Bitcoin.
exactly.
You were looking at it in fiat terms, which everyone looks at it from those terms because we're so used to valuing things in fiat terms.
And that was where I found like a stark, like, I guess, pivot point in my Bitcoin journey. The moment that I stopped looking at it in US dollars was when I realized I started to get an understanding of it. And everyone always likes to cope when Bitcoin is down, saying one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. But in all actuality, one Bitcoin does equal one Bitcoin. It's what kind of purchasing power, store value does that one Bitcoin have? I'm all for stacking sats, never selling. However, there is going to be a point in time where I will spend the heck out of my Bitcoin because I'm able to. And once we are able to live on that somewhat of a hybrid Bitcoin standard, that's when I'm gonna be, like, pretty content.
Yeah, it's interesting how it changes your time preference, right? You look at the price today, right now it's $21,360. And I would argue if you don't understand Bitcoin very well, you might think that's fair value. But for people that do understand the technology more, they think in terms of years, decades, and it changes the time preference. So, you know, there's no chance that I would be willing to sell Bitcoin at the current price.
And the thing is, when I do decide to sell my Bitcoin, it's not gonna be for fiat, it's gonna be for goods or services or, you know, paying my electricity bill. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I can use it as that medium of exchange.
That's awesome. So I was gonna put you on the spot and just be like, what is your elevator pitch? And the thing about Bitcoin is you can talk about it forever, right?
Yeah, that's that's where I've always had difficulty because, like, someone will ask me what my elevator pitch is, I'm like, "Well, how long is this elevator ride?"
Like, why Bitcoin? Like what's so special about Bitcoin? Why do you talk about it all the time? Like, what is your little pitch if you have just like a minute or two to kind of summarize it, knowing that you can't fully describe Bitcoin and like it just goes on and on. This rabbit hole goes deep.
I need to refine this because this is something that, I have an opportunity to share a lot, and I think sometimes I actually, like, scare people away by, you know, going on a long elevator ride, but the main points that I always try to hit on is, like, you know, what's an asset that you can own, like, actually own yourself, have full control over, no one can do anything about it, no one can repossess it. There's several assets that we can categorize that in. Monetarily, nothing except for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is fully self-sovereign. It is basically the key into financial freedom legitimately. A lot of people use the term financial freedom to, you know, sell life insurance or, something like that. But actual financial freedom is not having the government declare what your money is worth. And that is what Bitcoin does. And also in the end, number go up, honestly. If you no matter which way you look at it, Bitcoin is the answer. It is the most perfect computer system that has ever been created, and I think that's beautiful.
That's what got me because you mentioned that there's very few assets that you can actually possess that isn't simultaneously someone else's liability. So like you think you have money in the bank, but really the bank is just telling you that you have money in the bank and lending it out, 10 times or more. And they operate on that reserve standard. But what got me was the fact that you can possess it and no one else needs to give you permission to possess it. So permissionless, it's decentralized where anyone can run a node and have that full sovereignty to verify that they own Bitcoin. No one else owns their unspent transaction and just the permissionless nature of it. And furthermore, the consensus mechanism of the proof of work mining and how these blocks actually get verified and confirmed through that proof of work, which is absolutely, I'm sure you'd agree with me, it's absolutely a feature. The energy that Bitcoin uses is a feature, it's not a bug. Like that's very much a part of the security of the system. And once I started learning a little bit about the mining, that's what got me. It's like, oh, so this is unlike the cryptos, that are decentralized just as a marketing gimmick. Bitcoin's the real deal.
Mhm. Yeah, we're also seeing very evidently how undecentralized this DeFi ecosystem is. I'm not even talking about from, like, a centralized perspective like Celsius, Voyager, stuff like that. I'm talking about from the protocol level, like Tornado Cash, OFAC basically saying, if your address has touched Tornado Cash, it's blacklisted and circle USDC, basically blacklisting your address because they're a centralized entity on a decentralized protocol. But and then also there's this big debate about the merge and of the
The purge, the merge, the splurge.
oh my gosh, this merge is supposed to be happening for like 25 years. But you know, there's upgrades to Bitcoin. However, no one has ever been able to stop an address from sending or receiving, aside from, maybe not sending it to a SegWit or a Taproot because that's on your end where you're just sending it wrong. But like no one has there's not a single person, a single company, a single entity, group of people that is able to say, Tatum, you cannot send your Bitcoin to this person. I don't care. I will do it because I can. And it is actually purely decentralized. It's the only decentralized thing that is in this entire ecosystem. And it's weird because like Bitcoiners like to kind of they don't like the term DeFi because DeFi is associated with yield farming and stuff like that. But in all actuality, that's not DeFi. The only true DeFi is Bitcoin. It is the only true decentralized finance.
Yeah, and for the first time in human history, and like these are the points that I wanted to hit on. If you only have a couple minutes, like you want to hit on some of these points, right? And when you make bold claims, like for the first time in human history, we have digital scarcity for the first time ever, right? In a truly decentralized network, which is it's money native to the internet. And the fact that it works, the fact that it's worked and it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger for nearly 13 years. It's the real deal. And it's like when you make some of these bold claims, even if it's just a quick elevator pitch, if any of that is true, then that's very interesting. I would argue that people deserve it for themselves and for their families to look into this technology because it's life changing. But I think it fundamentally alters the course of human history because like how often does money get redefined? Not very often.
Another thing is that like one thing that turned me off when I first started learning about Bitcoin was that, you know, I it was very hard for me to figure out what mining was because there just wasn't too much out there aside from like Reddit forums, Bitcoin talk. And even once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is difficult. And then SHA-256. Oh, what's that? Oh, what's a node? What's this and this? You don't have to know any of that. You just have to know how to buy Bitcoin and how to store Bitcoin, which is two of the most simple things to do. I always say, use Strike for buying Bitcoin, and then and then use cold storage, whether it be Trezor, which by the way, Trezor just came out with a Bitcoin only firmware, which I need to check out, but super easy user interface. Or I use Cold Card, for instance. That's all you need to know, and then you're fully in the Bitcoin ecosystem. From there, you will want to learn more about running a Lightning node and what is a UTXO and what is mining, how do you mine, what different wallets are there, and what's a multi-sig. You know, you, it's not a complex thing to get into. You just need to know that it is a medium of exchange. It is a store of value. And then that's when the rabbit hole starts.
Mm, mm, absolutely. Bitcoin is money. And by someone getting off of zero and putting their first $100 or whatever, which now, of course, it's not financial advice. Of course, people got to do their own research, but just putting some skin in the game, you're automatically going to be more interested and you're going to learn about it. And I just find personally that the more you learn about Bitcoin, like the more interested you get into it. Next thing you know, you have laser eyes. And once you go orange pill, there's a reason why people are very passionate about it. I knew we would get off into like just talking about the technology. Hopefully, we can do more like talks in the future as well. We don't have to get it all in on one session. So you got your degree in traditional finance, and you were a part of a fraternity as well. I'm sure you talk with your fraternity brothers about money, and when you were starting to get interested in Bitcoin, I'm sure you had some of those conversations. Have you orange pilled any of your fraternity brothers or any of your friends that you've talked about Bitcoin with?
I wouldn't say that I've completely orange pilled any of them, but the conversations have gotten started. In fact, I saw one of my fraternity brothers actually join recently. I don't know if he's still on, but he was actually one that has more intently talked to me about it. A lot of times it is like jokes and stuff because like, that's what fraternity ends up being is just like guys joking with each other but like they know that I do work in the industry and they've had questions. I'm ready to have those conversations, but also like it's just a matter of kind of the old saying, everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve, which, it's never too late is the thing. But, if you decide at 100K, I'm ready to learn about Bitcoin and self-sovereignty, that's awesome. That's perfectly fine. Like it, I don't know what prevented you from doing that up until this point, but it's always open. And, I am having some of those conversations just in passing because a lot of us actually, I want to say there might be two or three in my pledge class that graduated with a finance degree as well. So, you know, these are conversations that like are kind of second nature to us. I'd love to just fully orange pill all of them. It opens up that kind of rabbit hole that might lead to some more questions and some more learning.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about, Tatum, is Miami Bitcoin 2022.
Yeah, it was the best weekend of my life.
That's awesome. I had FOMO, bro. I wanted to be there. Um, you met Max Kaiser, you met Peter McCormick, and you even got to say hello to Michael Saylor, right? How did that go? Did they drop any um, Bitcoin nuggets on you that you want to share?
I honestly wish that I had a little more time with Sailor. It was kind of funny how I ran into Sailor. I was leaving the Nakamoto stage. I just like completely ran into someone, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," and I was like, "That's my Sailor," and I was like, "Hey," like I went full fanboy. I was like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And we just got a quick selfie. But at the fold party, by the way, if you were watching and you want to passively earn sats, use fold. But at the fold party, I saw Max and I was like, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if I should say, hey, I was by myself too. And he was talking to someone and the guy walked away and I was like, hey, Max, my name's Tatum. And I was nervous, man. I was super nervous. We talked about just like networking and community and meetups and stuff like that. I was talking about how I just moved to New Orleans and how I didn't know of too many Bitcoiners. Max actually retweeted me and said like, hey, New Orleans Bitcoiners, link up with this guy. And I've actually met like 3 or 4 different people who are Bitcoiners who follow Max, and they're like, hey, I met you. I know you from Max's post. And I was like, that is a wild thing to hear. But some of them, like we steadily talk still today. And there's one guy that I got decently acquainted with. He's helping me learn Python right now. Max jokingly said, so backstory, I was bored one day last year before Bitcoin 22, and I photoshopped a picture from their template for the new speaker announcement, and I just put this really embarrassing picture of me. It said Tatum Cave, and where it had like people's title, like where it says CEO Strike, I said really cool and fun guy.
You are a really cool and fun guy.
Well, thank you. But Max retweeted that and said he's not speaking this year, but he will be next year. And I was like, like that's fun to like think about or whatnot. But like, what if I actually do? And I have given thought of it, and I don't know if it will happen, but if it does, I want to talk about fully unlocking the potential of Bitcoin via community and meetups and like finding a network of like-minded people, because that's something that's so important. Like what we're doing right here, like I've never seen you in person, but and you live, across the pond, but like we have like-minded, personalities and interests, and that's what's valuable in the space, and it helps both of us continue to learn.
For sure. Yeah, the Bitcoin community is the coolest community that I've come across. And it's interesting how it's a very diverse community that's also interested in local community as well as the economy of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is like just such a diverse group of people, really diverse like conversations and thinking and solutions to modern day problems. Like they approach it from all kinds of different angles, and again, like a very decentralized community. So lots of like-minded people, but also lots of different ideas, like disagreement as well, which brings a lot of value. But yo, Tatum, I appreciate you taking the time. I really do. Where can people find you? Obviously, you're on Instagram at what, Tatum Turnup.
Yeah, I use Instagram a little less now, but my main shtick is Twitter at Tatum Turnup, and that way you can find me pretty much anywhere else. I basically share everything through Twitter, and on my Twitter you can find my blog, Explain Bitcoin Like I'm Five, in my bio. I'm still working. It's been a little while since I've put out an issue. If you're wanting to know about Bitcoin and you think it's too confusing, definitely read my blog, because I try to explain things in analogies and concepts that a literal 5-year-old can understand. But yeah, dude, I've enjoyed this, and whenever you want to do this again, just let me know. I'm happy to do it.
I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into like specific topics.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to introduce you to my little community and your blog explaining Bitcoin like I'm five. That's kind of what I'm looking to do with my channel as well. Of course, like there's no shame in not knowing about Bitcoin, right? Like everybody starts at zero, and you can always learn about the technology, about value, about money, about wealth. There's always something to learn. Nobody knows everything there is to know about Bitcoin. That's a part of the beauty of it. So glad to have this conversation with you. I look forward to hopefully doing it again soon. And yeah, I really appreciate it, brother man.
Let me leave with a bit that it goes, my Bitcoin philosophy goes along with that. Never stop teaching and never stop learning. And that's probably the most important thing that you can know about Bitcoin as a whole in the community, because like I know more than, my brother who's not into Bitcoin about Bitcoin. However, I'd like to say we have a similar level of knowledge. You can teach me something that I would never have known. I can teach you something you would have never known. My brother can start watching some YouTube videos, and in a couple of days he might be able to teach me something that I would have never known, because I'm consistently learning, but also I'm consistently teaching, because one of the biggest misconceptions is that Bitcoin is like this elitist community. It is the exact opposite. Bitcoin was made for rich people to fail. As plebs, as the people who are usually left behind by the government, we're not going to leave other people behind. So if you are curious and you want to know, ask questions. There are no dumb questions in Bitcoin, because everyone starts on zero.
100%. It's proof of work, right? And that means it's merit based. And we are so early. People think they missed the boat and they missed the party. We are so early. The party like hasn't even gotten started, but the technology is proven. We have about 13 years of Bitcoin to learn about. And I think we've got hundreds, thousands of years ahead of us where this technology is going to keep growing and getting stronger. So absolutely could not agree more with you, Tatum, that you can always learn about it. I think that it's something that is one of the most important things to learn about. So thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it, and look forward to doing this again soon, my friend.
Absolutely. I will see you later on. Thanks for having me.
So that was my friend, my colleague, Tatum. in the building, bringing a lot of value. Really appreciate him coming on. That's what I'm doing here with this channel. I'm speaking with people that have dedicated their time, their energy to build on this technology, people that are involved in the business like Tatum is. I'm also looking to hit the streets and talk with people. Everybody's heard about Bitcoin, but some people, most people, I'd say like 99.9% of people don't actually know what it is. So thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find me at Colby No, ColbyNoe on Twitter, at Real Colby on Instagram. I'm just getting the party started on YouTube, so make sure you smash that subscribe button and let's learn about Bitcoin.